There we go. Okay, live on YouTube. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the stream. Of course, I am absolutely honoured to welcome the first ever ex-professional Borough and Cardiff legend, Andy Campbell, onto the stream tonight. Andy, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, mate. Looking forward to it.
And of course, fans out there, Andy had a great career, really. He played for many clubs up and down the country. And like I say, we've got a ton of questions to ask him. Anybody out there inside the world of wherever the heck you're watching this from, all over the world, really, feel free to obviously answer some questions and, or I should say, ask them, really. Me personally, Andy, I want to jump in it early and go right back to the start of your sort of childhood, really. I kind of ask you, before you got into the sort of, professional football, if you like, what was your kind of inspiration to sort of going into football?
My inspiration was my brother. I was very lucky that we lived in Martin. So my brother went to go and play for Martin Juniors, and obviously Martin over the years have been an absolute inspiration for many footballers. You know what I mean? They brought through England internationals, Stewie Downing, Jonathan Woodgate, Ben Gibson, etc. So very lucky. And my brother's a couple of years older than me, so he went to go training with a group of players. My mum took me because I think I was doing a heading a little bit, and I was a little bit bored and getting itchy feet. So I just went. Loved it. Loved the atmosphere. Loved the setup. Obviously, there wasn't a team for me because they were only setting up teams for certain ages. So I just went training just to waste a bit of steam. And then when eventually there was a team for my age, I loved it and just couldn't get enough of football. Training as much as I could and playing games as much as we could. And then eventually, obviously, the scouts came around and watching games and. You know what I mean? Obviously, I took my time and made sure it was right for me personally. But yeah, I just love football and just love playing games and scoring goals and winning trophies and just winning competitions at the time. It was really enjoyable.
I'm kind of sat here thinking to myself, I know obviously, when you played for Martin, was there any other sport that you thought to yourself, actually, I prefer this over the game of football?
Probably not a sport, no, but I was obviously very quick, and so it was obviously maybe running or sprinting or athletics where I probably could have excelled because probably given the right training, the right coaching by somebody, I probably could have gone even quicker. Which is probably a big statement out there because I was obviously really really quick, but it was something that I really enjoyed doing and prolonged my football career. It always gave me that edge over people. As a young player, nobody could catch me. I tried rugby at school, which I absolutely hated. I hated getting tackled, hated getting hurt. But when I did score tries, I loved it because nobody could catch me, and I was obviously the quickest in the team. But it was, but when I did get tackled, I was like a little baby, just started crying to my mum and just saying, "I don't want to play anymore." But I say we had to play. We had to play rugby in order to play football, so it was just a catch-22 situation, really.
Yeah, I mean. Joe, have you got any sort of questions you want to ask early?
Well, you just stole them, mate. I was just sitting there thinking you just stole my question.
Sorry, mate.
No, but it's similar question. Like, growing up at that age, who was your football inspiration? Like, obviously you say your brother and, you were, but who did you look up to? Who inspired you?
Bernie Slaven for me inspired me in Middlesbrough. I say I worship everything what Bernie did. You know what I mean? Jumping on the whole gate and scoring goals like he did, and just being selfish and probably I took my offside trait off Bernie because Bernie loves being offside, and I think I took that kind of trait throughout my career really. But probably him and Gary Lineker. Obviously Gary was a goal scorer who was obviously the record goal scorer at England at the time, scoring goals in the '86 World Cup, Italian '90, and I just love that feeling of scoring goals. And any person who scored goals regular, you know what I mean? I was watching Bernie every Saturday. I'd watch Gary Lineker playing for England, obviously in major tournaments or Wembley and things and on TV. And it was just, I just love people who score goals. And those two really, really stuck out for me. And it inspired me to go and want to get that feeling on a professional side as well.
Well, if you know anyone that could score goals, can you send them to Middlesbrough at the moment?
I think we're lost. I think we're lost, mate. And we were lost at the minute.
Send them our way, and that'll be a great help. But yeah, that was basically my sort of question. Like your inspiration, sort of growing up, and also obviously we know the position you played. But growing up, was there ever a point where you thought, you know what, I'm more suited to this position, or I'd like to play in this position, or was it always because of your pace? Obviously, you like you say, you could maybe be a winger, maybe, you know, an attacking midfielder, or was it always, were you always stuck? You always thought, right, this is for me, and it was never any other position?
I think, if I'm honest, I did prefer playing out wide because it was probably less involvement in contact. Because, as I say, you know, I mean, when the big centre halves were coming calling, when I was getting a little bit older, playing reserve team football, I didn't like how aggressive some players were and how tight they got and how ugly and how horrible they made game feel. Whereas when I used to play against my own age group, it was a little bit of means to an end. That you know, I mean, yes, some lads were big, but they weren't as physical as what the men are. And men's football, you know. I'll use Neil Ruddock. You know, I mean, I played against Neil Ruddock as one of my early games in professional football, and he was horrible. But he taught me how to be a man very quickly in probably about an hour, and taught me that it's a men's game, and you've got to be a man to play football. And I think sometimes that, and my biggest bugbear with young football at the minute is under 23 football is you need to go out and play men's football. You need to go and get that development and play and be a man and just get thrown into the deep end at times because it's a vicious game, or can be a vicious game, and it was the best learning curve I ever had.
Sounds very similar to a young lad locally. Very similar. Very, very small. He was a very small lad, and as a young age, he was never known as a good footballer. But he would get, you know, knocked, battered by his older brother, and we'd all play against him and elbow him. And he's still small now, but it made him such a better footballer as he's grown up, and he now plays for Jerseys where I live for their professional team, and they just won their league. But it's very, very similar in he had to learn to become a man, you know, like you say, you learn to become a man within an hour, but it's very similar. You know, he was a small kid. He used to get knocked around, and now he's the best player. I know it's only an island of 110,000 people, but he's the best player on the island, and it all stemmed from a very similar position like yourself, you know?
Yeah, you've got to do it, and listen, it's not nice, you know what I mean, but you've got to have that development. You've got to have the understanding that it's a man's game, and when they say that, they're not being disrespectful to young people and saying young people can't play it. But for me, the managers have always said, if you're good enough, or if you're old enough, you're good enough. If you're good enough, you're old enough, and that's the case. But you've got to step up to the plate and understand that it's going to be physical, because when players can't deal with what you've got as an individual, they've got to use something what they've got, and 9 times out of 10, they've got the physicality, they've got the aggression, and that wasn't my game. But I had things what they couldn't deal with or they didn't have, and I tried to combat that with certain things, and it was a game of cat and mouse, game of chess in the football terms, and it was great, and I loved it, and you know what I mean. And listen, people say to me, play as long as you can, because football career is such a short life, and when you don't play or when you've retired, it's such a different that you remember and talk about football, which is great, but there's no substitute for the real thing in playing football.
Can imagine. But you were lucky. You
very lucky. Yeah, very lucky. And listen, there's better footballers.
I'm breaking up heavy.
It's all right. Don't worry.
That's why I'm not talking.
It's all right. There's better footballers than me who didn't make it professional footballer wise.
I'm not spoken much.
Yeah, that means nothing, though, does it? I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about being there, but you've got to have the mentality.
You've got to listen to me. Yeah, I agree. You've got to want it more than anybody else. And I think when I was a youth team player, I didn't go out drinking. I didn't go out socialising. I was very focused in what I wanted, and made sure that I was a professional footballer as quick as I could, and made my first team debut as quick as I could, and I'll never regret that. And you know what I mean, I did it the right way, and it got me where I wanted to be.
I mean, just based on what you're saying, I mean, I know we're going fast forward here, but it's relatable to Middlesbrough. But look at Ravel Morrison.
Well, I came across Ravel at United years and years ago, you know, and I watched him play, and I've never hidden this fact. You know what I mean? Technically, he's probably one of the best things I've ever seen. He had the edge about him. He had the aggression. He had the arrogance, but in a good way. He had all the tools to be a top class footballer. He was at the right football club at the time at Man United, and it's just never happened. And no manager's been able to get a tune out of him. And I feel really sorry for part of me feels sorry for the boy. But part of me feels he's wasted his own talent, and I just think it's such a shame. But at the same time, you've got to want to win. You've got to want to do well yourself, and for one reason or another reason, it hasn't worked out for Ravel. And I hope for his sake, in the future, he doesn't look back at it when his career is finished and think that he should or could have done more.
Yeah. but that goes back to your saying of it's not about, there was more talented footballers than you, but you had the mentality, you were willing to work hard, and every single day you woke up and went to bed, no doubt, and thought, I'm a professional footballer. I'm not, and that's what made the difference. And credit
every
to
time
you.
every time I went to bed, I was looking at how I could improve, how I could emulate other people, how I could copy. And listen, if I had a quarter of Ravel Morrison's talent, I would have been amazing. But I didn't, but I had things what he didn't have, and I had the mentality and the desire to run through a brick wall for my football club and myself and my family, and made sure that it worked.
Well, exactly. So Rio Ferdinand said the same thing. If he had a quarter of his talent, and then look how Rio Ferdinand ended up. He was one of the best players to ever play football. But they said the same thing. If I had a quarter of his talent, you know. But the fact is you're a legend in the sport. To Borough fans, to Cardiff fans, and because you made that happen, and it's credit to you. It's no one else.
Spam. Thank you. No, listen, it's good, isn't it? And I think every time I've seen young players come through, and I go through the Stewie Downings, the Ben Gibsons, the Catamolls, the Stewie Parnabys, etc., the Anthony Rods, Robbie Stockdale's, myself, that you're proud to wear that shirt. You're proud because you love the football club, and the fans are always spot on with the younger players, and it makes it a privilege to walk on that pitch and to play for that football club, and just long may that continue, because it's the best job in the world, and it's the shortest lived job in the world as well, and if you ever get the opportunity to do it, you've got to grab it with both hands.
Yeah, I hope a lot of young players watch. If they do or they don't, I hope they watch this or listen to them sort of words and realise it is about passion. It is about hard work. It's not just about you've signed a contract and now you're the big thing. When you put that shirt on, whether it be a Cardiff shirt or a Middlesbrough shirt, it's all about giving 100%, and it is your
it doesn't
life. And
doesn't matter.
It does seem like a lot of players today, young players, they don't have that same mentality that you had. Not all of them, of course. This isn't a dig at a lot of, but I think a lot of young players just think, right, I've got the contract now. I'm just looking for the next wage packet and blah blah blah, and that's sad because you became the person you are based on hard work and graft. And let's hope that a lot of people take what you've done and take what you've said and run with it, and there'll be a lot more successful footballers out there.
I hope so, because I think the problem that football's got a little bit is there's too much money in the game for young players at a young age. And listen, there's time to earn that money, and there's time to get it. And if you're good enough, you learn it, and you learn it in droves. But when people are given it at a young age, it can also be taken away very quickly, and it can also give them a false optimism of what they're going to achieve or what they are achieving. And it's not about retiring at 21, 22, 23. It's about having a full career up to 32, 33, 35, 40 if you're lucky. That's the basic. And look at Stewie Downing, the career the man's had. 36-year-old the other day, still playing, going strong, going for another year. It's just absolutely magnificent. And players need to take a leaf out of these kind of players, the experienced players, and just go, do you know what? If I can play up to 36, or I can play up to 32 or 33 and play for our country and play in the Premier League and score so many goals, so many assists. They're the targets. It's not about getting a contract, a 4-year contract, or or staying at the club for X amount of years. It's about setting goals for yourself. And I set short-term goals for myself when I was at Middlesbrough. I set long-term goals. Some I achieved, some I didn't achieve, and because your future is also dictated by somebody else. Ultimately, But then you change your goals and your achievements as you move around different clubs. But they've got to be realistic as well. There's no point me turning around and saying, I want to go to a World Cup, because you've got to be realistic with your talent as well, and understand that, the players ahead of you, position-wise, the England-wise at the time when I played, Michael Owen, Emil Heskey, etc. So, you've got to understand that these kind of players are world-class at the time, and they're going to keep you out of these kind of situations.
But yeah, being realistic does make a big difference, and I think it helps you as a player to be realistic as well. I think
as a player and as a person, because you set yourself up to fail, and even if you had a good game, you'd probably see the negatives where you've got to enjoy the good times, because your last goal could be your very last goal. It could be your last game for the club. You just never know what's going to happen around the corner when
you
you're
never know. Your last day could be your last.
Exactly.
Your last day could be your last day. You've got to take.
And you've got to see the positives. It's like I said, and I've always said, it's the best career in the world, best job in the world. It's not a job; it's a hobby, but it's the best place to be in. And every Middlesbrough fan wants to be a player at the Essen Park or play at the Riverside. Every Middlesbrough fan wants to score a goal, pull that red shirt on, and play with pride. And when you watch players who don't look like they're putting a shift in for the club or running through a brick wall, it's heartbreaking and it's so upsetting and angry. And that's when fans throw the frustration and rightly so, because it's, you know what I mean. I was lucky that I played in a very successful era, but at the same time, there was not one player who put that red shirt on and didn't put a shift in.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's what me and AJ.
Andy, sorry, I just wanted to ask you about your sort of. Go on, Joe. You're all right.
No, I just said me and you.
Sorry, I'm lagging a little bit here, so I'm sorry if I'm a little bit behind.
I said me and you feel the same about.
A little bit.
I was just saying, me and you feel the same about, people putting the shirt on, and when they don't give 100%, that's our main issue. Do you know what I mean? I don't care if you're not even a good player. You're not. You don't have to be a top level player, but if you give, example, towards the end of his reign at Middlesbrough, Adam Clayton, people saying, oh, he lost his legs, he's not the player, but he gave 110% every game, and to me, that was enough for me. Do you know what I mean?
I totally agree, and I hate that term about players who are losing their legs. That I do wish like certain players probably left a year early, because you want to remember the good times instead of the way they leave. And George Friend, he's probably the best pound for pound signing Middlesbrough Football Club I've ever made, as in the transfer fee, what he's given the football club. And I'm so disappointed probably the way that the season's gone for him personally, because like you say, it looks as though he's probably the pace of the game has caught up to him a little bit. His injuries have caught up a little bit, and people remember him and now see him as a bad player, or you know what I mean. But you've got to look bigger than that, and it annoys me. And people slag the chairman off for the same thing and say that he's took the club as far as he can, and now they see the negatives. It's rubbish, because these people live and die Middlesbrough Football Club. They don't have to be from the area to do it. They've done it. They've came here. They bought into the project of what they wanted when they were here, and they've loved it, and fans love them for them reasons.
Yeah, me and AJ said the same thing the other day, and fans I hear on Twitter all the time are we're skint, we're this, we're that, and we have to agree. I said, look, at the end of the day, Steve Gibson came out and said he will never allow Middlesbrough Football Club and us as fans to go through what Bolton have been through, what Bury have went through, what Wigan have now gone through. And that's why we've had to struggle for the last season. And yeah, maybe Woodgate wasn't the best managerial appointment, and it was based on money. But I'd rather that than us be administration, and literally there might not be a club anymore. He as a chairman would never, I don't believe, would ever let us be no more. He would do.
No, I totally agree. I look at where he's brought the club from, where he's took it to, where he's got it now. You know what I mean? He's got it in a place where he would never have dreamed of having it when he took it over at Essen Park. The new ground was probably a pipe dream. Going to a European Cup final, winning a trophy, filling the corners in the new stadium, having a training ground, having a hotel, bringing the players in that have had. He's done absolute wonders for the football club, and like you say, you know what I mean. The easiest thing for Steve Gibson would be to sell this football club to somebody, and he would hate that, because he'd feel guilty if it was run into the ground. He'd feel guilty if it was handled the wrong way, like other clubs. You said Wigan, Hull City, and he doesn't want that. And he's losing X amount of money per month, but he's happy to bankroll and push the club in the right direction. And listen, I'm his biggest fan, because he's been absolutely fantastic for my football club, and I'm a Middlesbrough fan before I was a Middlesbrough player, and you know what I mean. So I can't thank him enough.
Yeah, last thing I'll say before AJ can come in is it's not just for the football club; it's for the town. He doesn't just
totally agree.
Yeah, he doesn't.
I totally agree.
He does it for the town. So credit to him. AJ,
yeah, and Middlesbrough Town wouldn't be anything without Steve Gibson. Nothing.
I agree, 100%, mate, 100%. Right, on you go, mate. Fill your boots. If you're there.
Sorry, lads. My internet's all over the place, and it was fine before we did the stream, and I'm getting told it's running fine on other devices, but I'm lagging heavy. So I do apologise for the fact that I've not spoken for 20 minutes.
Right.
It's just a fact that it's breaking up a lot. But from what I can say, Andy, I want to kind of talk about your career, well, a bit more really. At Middlesbrough, what was it like? Walking in on your first day, walking into Middlesbrough Football Club, what was it like meeting all the players and stuff? What was the feeling around the training ground?
When I first went in as a YTS at Ayresome Park, because obviously the new stadium had been built, so we were using Ayresome Park as a training ground, as a place to get trained. The first team trained on the ground, and we trained at Cholesby Road, and then did afternoon sessions on the pitch. And listen, it was a dream come true for me, because being a Middlesbrough fan, I didn't get the opportunity to play at Ayresome Park, but to train on there and get changed there, and to go home and tell my dad all the stories that I've done during the day. It was an absolute dream come true. And to see the way the football club is evolving, obviously just signed people like Jan Fjortoft, and then Nick Barmby came in, and then we brought Janino in, and then it's obviously endless. And it was such a dream that one minute you're training with 16-year-old kids, your friends, and then the next minute you're training with Brian Robson, Nick Barmby, Craig Hignett, Jan Fjortoft, Janino when he came, and it's any man's dream, anybody's dream, but even better for me being a Middlesbrough fan.
Unbelievable. Tell me everything it was like seeing Janino work his magic on the training ground. Like, was he as good as what people said he was on the training ground?
Well, when he first came in, when he first came in, or when we heard he was coming in, it was a little bit like, obviously, he just played against England. It was the little mini tournament, wasn't it, in Wembley, and then Brian Robson told everybody that he'd been over to Brazil, agreed a fee, and he was coming to sign, and we were just a little bit like, oh, this is just unbelievable. This is to be the dream. You know what I mean? Where could we end up? And when he came in, I've never seen a player come to a club and work harder than anybody else. Have as much desire as he did for obviously a very, very small man. He wanted to improve every day. Things he used to try and execute in training was just like, you'd just be stood there with your mouth open wide and just think, how has he done that? And you know what I mean? But then he'd replicate it in the game. He'd do it in a game, and he'd be the first on the training pitch. He'd be the last off the training pitch. You know what I mean? He absolutely loved it, and a good story. So it was obviously he signed quite early in the season, didn't he? His first game was against Leeds, and I think it was about November, December time, and it was snowing. We were training on the Riverside for this one occasion. Because obviously all the pitches out in the local area were really bad. So, you know, I mean, the best pitch was the Riverside. So we trained there, and Janino trained with a coat on, tracksuit bottoms, gloves, balaclava. And it was just like the most surreal thing in the world that you've got a world-class footballer, you know what I mean? He'd never seen snow before, and you know what I mean? But he was still the best player on the pitch, in the training pitch. And it was just, you know, but he could turn training into a game, and he just found football so easy. And people use the word world class very, very easily nowadays with footballers, but he was that good. At the time, he could have walked into any Champions League team and won anything he wanted to, but he chose Middlesbrough and helped Middlesbrough push us to another level. And I was so glad that he chose Middlesbrough, because he put us on the map.
He did indeed. He was.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to ask you, who was the biggest diva in Middlesbrough? You know, at your time, over the years looking back, who was the biggest diva?
I'd probably say Emerson, probably. You know what I mean? That he obviously loved a bit of everything. You know what I mean? He loved his football, and he was very passionate when he did do it. But obviously, he socialised off the pitch and partied off it. You know what I mean? But at the time, there was a big drinking culture with the English players and the British players. So, you know, when the foreigners came over, it was probably a new lease of life for them, that they've seen us lot. And especially the older players and management having that kind of socialisation with fans and with, you know what I mean, local pubs, nightclubs and stuff. So for them to come over and sample it themselves, it must have been a breath of fresh air, because it was serious on the pitch, but it was also a nice time off it as well.
Yeah, I've heard. Funny enough,
Yeah, I see. You know, Emerson.
A comment about Emerson. I've heard that as well. So
they did. Janino, they used to do it. Everybody used to go Red Car nights out, Tall Trees nights out, Yam nights out, Middlesbrough nights out. Yeah, listen, and there's always something in the area. There's always something at the time going on. You know, you could go certain pubs on a Tuesday night, didn't have a game on a Wednesday, had the day off. Thursday night you could go into town and go to the theatre and it would be busy, and then Saturday, Sunday. And listen, you could keep yourself busy every day, same as anybody else. But you know what I mean? Predominantly you got to remember you're a footballer and you've got to make sure that you're right. And I'm not saying they went out and drunk. Probably the amount that the British players drunk, but they certainly enjoyed themselves.
I mean, fair play to
Class.
them.
I mean, I want to ask you as well. I Wikipedia'd a bit of your career. Because I'm quite interested in footballers. Weird, but I do it all the time. Delve into sort of players' careers. Did you ever play under Neil Warnock? I know he played for Sheffield United on loan. Did you ever play under Warnock?
No, I didn't play underneath him. No, I didn't play as a player under his management. I met him a couple of times throughout my career, and obviously met him at the end of my career when he was Cardiff manager, Sheffield United manager as well. And I've always admired the way that he's done things. I've always admired his honesty. I've always admired the way that he's very passionate and he wears his heart on his sleeve and he's and just the way he goes about. That he's the same on the pitch. You know what I mean, on the touchline, and he is in his interviews and wears his heart on his sleeve, like I said, and he's just a genuine, lovely fella. And you know what I mean. I remember. I remember I had a conversation with him after a Cardiff game. I went to watch Cardiff against Ipswich Town. Cardiff won 3-1. It was probably one of the best performances Cardiff have had all season, apparently. And the goalkeeper made a little bit of an error. Came out for a ball, missed it. Lad headed it on the line, and came to see me at the end. We had a pint in the bar and just picked my brains and see if I knew any goalkeepers for him to sign because he wanted a new goalkeeper just because the keeper had made a mistake. And I felt a little bit like I don't want to stitch a fellow professional up, but at the same time, he's asking for some advice, some players and stuff, and it was just. But that's what he was about. That's what Neil Warnock's all about, and he'll never stop. And listen, anybody who gets to the age that he is, 70? Is he 72, 71, 72? Anybody who gets to that age and still wants to work and still wants to be involved in day-to-day football, absolute credit. I mean, he deserves all the credit and plaudits he gets.
Do you know what? As well, based on what you just said there, I mean, that sounds very brutal. It does sound extremely brutal. But you know what? We've needed someone like that at Middlesbrough for so many years.
Totally agree. Well, we've always had a conversation. Every time I spoke to Neil, he obviously knows I'm still Middlesbrough based and stuff. And he's always told me, he said, listen, he said, there's been 6 or 7 times that Steve Gibson's offered me the job or wants me to come and rang me up. And Middlesbrough's the only team that I've regretted not signing for. So I said, well, one day, you never know in the future. And then obviously Cardiff got promoted. I went to the promotion party down there and said, like, are you staying at Cardiff or do you fancy going to Middlesbrough, help us get promoted, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm going to go to the Premier League. I've never really had a Premier League season. I've always lost my job or moved sideways and gone back to the Championship. He said, I want to try the Premier League, but you know what I mean? I said, I'm probably going to struggle now with my age. And listen, when I heard the news that he was coming to Middlesbrough, I was absolutely made up and didn't surprise me one little bit that his remit was to keep us open, and he did it. He did it probably as later than I imagined, but listen, you know what I mean? If he hadn't taken over, we wouldn't have gone out of it. It's that simple, you know what I mean? Because the players weren't playing for the club, for the manager, and he changed things around. He put smiles on faces, and my only disappointment is the fans weren't there to show the appreciation for him because they'd have loved him at the Riverside. You know what I mean? Yes, we didn't have a great end of the season at home, and we had some really poor performances, but he'd have got the fans going, he'd have galvanised them, he'd have got the atmosphere going, and the players would have responded from it because that's what players do, and that's what he's really good at.
Can I just need to ask a question from a professional point of view? I've always got the opinion of Neil Warnock in the Premiership, or there's been a few managers, but Warnock's one of them. I've always felt like he's almost been thrown under the... Do you know, kind of like Norwich were this season? I always get the impression he was thrown under the bus a little bit. It was never given the finances, was never given the, kind of like Norwich this season. And then, then it reflects badly on him. And people say, well, Warnock can take, teams up, but, he's took them down. They've been relegated, blah, blah, blah. But I've always looked at it as he's never really been given a kitty and the right stuff to make a good go of it. Do you know what I mean?
I think he's been very, very honest with that as well, though. And I think he's, he's never been given the opportunity in the Premier League to succeed. He's never been given the money that anybody else has been given to really push and to see if he can be a Premier League manager. He's always been that go-to guy to save a club or to get them promoted or to get them in the playoffs and to stabilise a club. And a little bit like a super sub, a little bit like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United that come off the bench and score the goal and save us. He's that kind of manager, and it hasn't done his career any harm. But I think Neil, at a certain age, he wanted that opportunity to manage in the Premier League, and when he got that opportunity at Cardiff, he spent a little bit of money. He brought some good players in, and he was unlucky not to keep them up. But the bigger picture is he wouldn't have been Middlesbrough manager this season if he'd have kept Cardiff City up the season before, because it just wouldn't have materialised. It wouldn't have happened. So good things come out of bad situations sometimes, and thankfully for Middlesbrough, we got the gun.
We would have been in League One, and we'd have been stuck there for about 4 seasons. So,
God bless him, because it would have been heartbreaking for the town, for the area, for the football club, and I don't think a football fan in this area would have recognised that football club come start next season.
I mean, do you know what? I'm going to have a memorial of him in my bedroom, in my house. I think, honestly, I might even get him tattooed on my body somewhere. I love him that much. He's absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, I'm with you 100%. AJ, more questions?
Yeah, Andy. Yeah, more questions. Sorry, Andy. My connections are all over the place,
sorry.
And I'm really
sorry.
Don't worry. Like I said, I'm looking forward so much for his stories, but my questions absolutely everywhere, lads. Andy, for me personally, I'm really interested in your whole career, but I wanted to ask you, is it Borough or is it Cardiff? Which one is it? Which one?
No, listen. I'm a Middlesbrough lad. I'm born in Middlesbrough, or born in Stockton, but born in Middlesbrough. Still live in Middlesbrough now, so they're never going to take it away from me. You know that. I've got a really good affiliation with Cardiff because my daughter was born there. I spent 4.5 years, but listen, no one will ever take away from Middlesbrough from me, because I love the club and I love everything about it, and still go and watch the games there now. But yeah, for me it's Middlesbrough, and you know what I mean. And Cardiff fans will never be gutted about that, because they know, you know what I mean. And it's the same for them, that everyone's got a second team or whatever. But mine's more than that with Cardiff, because I go back all the time. I've met some lovely people there. I've got some great friends there. My daughter was born there, and my memories at the time at the football club are great. But Middlesbrough for me is my home, and it gave me my opportunity to become a footballer, and I'll never forget that.
We love you even more for that, mate. We love you even more.
Of course, when I've got to ask you though, I watched that playoff final today. I watched 8-minute highlights, and I watched it properly today. And you came on for Earnshaw. It looked a bit fuming, to be fair. Obviously, your number went up. You were coming on for Robert Earnshaw. In that process of you being stood there, waiting to come onto the field inside that final, what was the feelings going through you? Listen, that's all I ask you. What kind of emotions were you feeling stood on the touchline? Earnshaw's coming off absolutely fuming.
Listen, and a big attendance, a big crowd. I knew when the manager told me to warm up. I knew I was coming on for, because it was always me and him. You know what I mean? It was always that kind of situation that if I played, he was sub. He would come on for me when I seen him warming up and getting ready, and vice versa.
Right.
And, which we were too similar to play together, and we always played with Peter Thorne, and Thorne was like the main man, and I played second fiddle to Ernie that season, which was fine because he scored loads of goals. But the playoff final was something else, and I remember standing there on the touchline and hearing the nervous groans from the fans and the claps, and thinking, listen, I've got a point to prove here. I've had a decent season. I scored the first goal of the season to open the account. I've had a couple of injuries which I wanted to make sure, but also I wanted to be successful because we got beaten in the playoff semi-final the year before. So I obviously didn't want that to happen again on the big stage. And the way the rest of the second half went, didn't really get involved much. But then when we stood there just before extra time, I thought, listen, I feel fresh, I feel fit, I feel good. I've looked at some of them. They're getting stretched off. They're getting a few centre halves looking tired. Two big strapping boys, and thought, listen, if I get an opportunity second half, I've just got to run them into the ground and play to my strengths and see where it is. And the longer the game went on, it was more mentally tiring than physically tiring because obviously penalties were looming, and all I was thinking was, right, I can't miss my penalty. Where am I going to put my penalty? What am I going to do? Smash it, put it to the keeper's left. What am I going to do? You know what I mean? Because being in Cardiff, playing for Cardiff, it was extra special. It was extra pressure. But you know what I mean. We just needed to make sure that that we didn't lose, and I even thought to myself, if I miss my penalty, as long as we win, it's all right. It's all about the team. It's all about, you know. But selfishly, I was worrying because I didn't want to miss my penalty, you know. And then when the ball came over the top, and I managed to get a really good connection on the lob over Chris Day's head. It was the noise. Listen, I've only ever heard noise that day in another place, and that was Wembley when Ravanelli scored the goal against Leicester at Wembley in the Coca-Cola Cup final, and it was just deafening, absolutely deafening, and the noise, the exterior.
It was like I say, it was a special goal.
Yeah, it was just crazy though, because you know what I mean. The players jumped off me.
Yeah, go on.
The players jumped on top of me, and then obviously, we still had what 6 minutes left in the game, and I don't think I touched the ball again in the next 6 minutes because I was just running about like a headless chicken because I just wanted something to happen. But who does care?
Who does care? It's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I watched the technique of the goal. You kind of like, as the ball bounces, you kind of like jump at the ball and you sort of just like swung your left footed and look happy days. You know what I mean? Lobbing the goalkeeper, but. I watched a highlight earlier, and it seemed like, you know, lobbing goalkeeper was kind of like your favourite finish. It was against Sheffield Wednesday at home.
Yeah, I've done it. Yeah,
again, you ran onto it and just put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, I've done it a couple of times. It's something that I enjoy doing, and I always used to try a lot in training, like watching other players and just trying to emulate it, and just get that perfect lob and understand what it takes just to get it over the keeper's head. And I say on playoff final day, it worked a treat, and you know it was inch perfect, because if Chris had got a fingertip on it, it might not have gone over the line, or if, you know, I mean, it had to be inch perfect. And it was, listen, it was a lovely feeling, and something what no one can ever take away from me, because it's written in the history, written in the stars now. So it can't be taken away.
That's brilliant news, mate. Brilliant.
Oh, well then, explain the celebration. You've scored the goal.
Yeah.
And then you've ran off, giving it this underneath your chin.
Yeah,
explain
so
the celebration to us, Andy.
right. So we're in the hotel so we played on the Sunday. So it was a Saturday. We trained at Ninian Park as normal before the game, and we went to the Vale of Glamorgan Hotel where we stayed. And I was sharing with a good friend of mine and a teammate called Gethin Jones. Gethin was a young boy, Wales under-21 international, and Lenny Lawrence, who was obviously the gaffer at the time, Lenny pulled Gethin into his room just before tea, and informed him that he wasn't going to be in the 16. It wasn't going to be sub. Geth came down back to our room. He was in absolute bits. He was crying his eyes out. He was disappointed. I was trying to console him. We rung his mum and dad. We rung his girlfriend and his mates and stuff, and just to try and get his spirits up. And as I say, I tried to prepare the same way that as I would. I went down for tea. I went out for a little walk. I'd had a bath the night before, and then just before we were going to bed, we had a quick chat. He was a lot better, a lot brighter, and he said, "Can you do me a favour tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah, of course I can do anything." And he said, "When you score, or if you score," he said, "will you do a celebration for me?" And I said, "Yeah, what do you want me to do?" And he said, "Well, just do chin up and do it for me." So I said, "Mate, of course I will." And what happens was, where I celebrated in the corner was where my family was, and all my friends were, and Geth was sat with my family. So when I scored, I knew where he was and did it for Geth straight up the top of the stand. And listen, and when we went out on the night, straight away came up to me, give me a big cuddle and just thanked me for what I did for him. But listen, it was more of a privilege for me, and I was so delighted to do it and give him something back, because I saw more than what anybody should have to see, and the night before, and seeing how disappointed he was, because football's such a good game, and the highs that I had on that Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, he had the biggest of the lows. You know that my biggest low is not getting in the squad at Middlesbrough, but I'm on about being a young kid, and my low is getting beaten in the playoff semi-final. It's not a low that what he'd received on that conversation with the manager, and it must have been so disappointing. So for me, it was just a privilege to be able to do something for a friend and a teammate.
That's amazing. It's an amazing story. That is amazing. Let me just say, by the way, to everyone,
I just remember seeing your face after you've scored it, and you're almost in shock.
No, I think I was. Yeah, I think I was in a little bit of a shock, because you know, I think I've never been one probably to prepare a celebration and to prepare something. So when he's asked me to do it, I've said, of course I'll do it, and I'll do it. But I didn't expect to score at that end, find him straight away in the crowd, and then do it to where my family was. And it was just probably the shock of scoring, because I've already got myself mentally ready for penalties, scoring the winning goal, having all the lads jumping up on me, seeing my friends and family, seeing Geth, and it was just everything rolled into one and more for me.
Emotion must have been incredible.
Yeah, it was just surreal, absolutely surreal.
But yeah, just to
Unbelievable.
everyone in the comments, I'm not falling asleep, even though I look like it. I've been in hospital all day. I've been in hospital all day, and they've only just let me out. And even though I feel half asleep, I'm not going to fall asleep on you all. So I haven't taken any drugs, and I'm not going to fall asleep. So we're all good. For anyone wondering, I've just got out of hospital, so we'll be all right. That's what I need. I need a Costa coffee.
You do.
That's what I need.
You do.
But yeah, I'll be with you. I'll be with you for the next 20 minutes at least, guys. So don't worry about it. I'm looking at myself here, thinking, you're falling asleep here. You look like you're off your nut. But I'm all right. We're all good. We've got this.
Sweet. Andy, when we played Man United in the FA Cup, Borough knocked them out. What was that like, scoring against Man United? Man United at the time, what a team, a fantastic team.
Yeah, I listen to for any lad's dream to play for your club is brilliant, but to play against Man United is something else. I was very lucky that I played at Old Trafford a couple of times. I played at the Riverside a couple of times against United, and I scored twice against United, and in two separate occasions. But the header in the cup final, the cup game, in the FA Cup, to knock them out and to score the second goal with a header was just something else. And it makes it even better when you see Fabian Barthez in goal and to be able to score. You got Laurent Blanc centre half, and the team that Man United can put out was just amazing. And all the times that we played against Man United, that they knew every time they played against Middlesbrough, they'd win for a game and in for a tough game, and we always proved that, and we did it really well. And for me, it's just pure emotion to score for Middlesbrough, but against Man United, something different, because that the focus and the attention is just tenfold, because Man United are that world big.
They struggled against us, United, though, didn't they? Quite a lot.
All the time, yeah, all the time. We had some games at Old Trafford where we held them for long periods and got some positive results, and even home games. I'll probably say the only time that they didn't struggle against us is when they won the trophy at the Riverside. That's the only time I can remember them really giving us a good beating.
Similar with Chelsea. I mean, they struggled. The only time they didn't was when I flew from Jersey to watch Middlesbrough Chelsea, and they beat us 3-0. Alex scored the best free kick I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, he did.
And Didier Drogba, I'm not joking you don't, obviously you understand, Andy, but unless you watch that man play live, you don't realise how good he is at football. He was unbelievable. I remember they beat us 3-0, and I thought, do you know what? I was going there. It was me and my mum. We went to a Middlesbrough Chelsea game. And I'm thinking, right, I've never been to a Middlesbrough game, and we've never lost when I've been to a Borough game. We drew, never lost. I was thinking, we always beat Chelsea. We're going to do them. We're going to do them. Took my poor mum there. We got absolutely humiliated. Alex scored that rocket of a free kick. Yeah. And I swear to God, Didier Drogba, he was walking. He wasn't even running. He was just walking around the pitch. But everything he done was just, there was a reason for it, but it was like Berbatov, they just walk and then, a little jog of pace. And I was like, I'm sorry, Mum, but you've just watched an absolute humiliation. And then she kept saying to me, well, at least the blue one, the number 9 or the number 7, he's really good. He's really good. I'm like, Mum, you need to watch your mouth here. They're going to fall out big time. The ones in the blue aren't good players, and you're not supposed to like them, Mum. We're going to have words when we get in. But yeah, we had a good record against Chelsea as well.
Yeah, we did.
United were, the teams you must have played against, and that when you were playing United's team, then, like you say, some of the players were just absolutely out of this world, weren't they?
Yeah, well, there was a class of '92, you know what I mean? And then on top of that, you had the Van Nistelrooys, the Barthez, the Bosniches, the Laurent Blancs, the Yapstams, and it's just endless. And there were Dwight Yorks, Andy Cole, it's the times when they won the European Cup, they won doubles, trebles. It was endless, and you know, I mean, and then on top of it, you've got the Invincibles at Arsenal. You know, so Middlesbrough came across at the time some really, really tough and challenging times against opposition teams, but still were able to mix it up and play against the best. You know, so it was really pleasing, really. But we also hit some teams at really, really bad times, and you know, I remember getting beat by Arsenal. I think 7-1 at home on the other side, and that was tough. You know what I mean? But you can only play. You know what I mean? When you've got people like Overmars and Bergkamp and Vieira and Petit, Henry, it's hard. It's not even hard. It's just impossible.
Yeah. While we're talking about, I mean, I know AJ's got some questions, but while we're talking about good players, I was going to save this towards the end, but because we're talking about good players now, who's the best Middlesbrough player you've played with? Who do you think the best player Middlesbrough ever have had? And who do you think the biggest, it's not nice to call them it, but who would you say the biggest flop was that we've ever seen?
For me, best player I played with at Middlesbrough was got to be Juninho. I thought he was just absolutely outstanding.
He's probably going to be the next answer as well.
Yeah, well, I'll try and mix it up a little bit because I don't want to probably be too predictable. But I personally, I think I was more excited about what was to come, and you know what I mean, how hard he worked and his all round package for me. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and I just thought it was great. Best ever. Who's made the biggest impact for me? To be honest, I probably can't see past Ravanelli, you know, for the season that he came in and scored all the goals, and we had all that success, and you know what I mean. The story that when he came in, that we were training at the prison at Kirk Leverton prison. We were training pre-season, and we were training on, I think it was a Thursday as normal. You would on the morning. And I watched the Champions League game the night before, where Juventus beat Marseille, I think, and Ravanelli scored the winning goal in the Champions League final. They won 1-0, and we were training, running around as we do. We're doing a bit of pre-season, having a hard session, and I caught a glimpse of this obviously silver-haired fella, and said to Mark Somerville, I said, that's Ravanelli. That he turned around to me and said, "Why on earth would Ravanelli come here? He just won the Champions League last night." Finished training as we do. Manager pulls us in for the group meeting, introduces us to our new signing of Fabrizio Ravanelli, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this is just the best thing ever." That I'm going to be playing with a player who's won the Champions League. He's Italian international. He's got silver hair. He's just all this. He's all this rolled into one. And not for 1 minute did I think. Not for 1 minute did I think selfishly, "Oh no, I'm not going to play." You know what I mean? Because I just thought for me, this is a move for the club, for a fan. As a fan, I'm thinking this is amazing. But then not for 1 minute. It was probably till I got home and my dad said, "So what does it mean for you?" And selfishly, I'm not bothered about me because I'm going to be training with Ravanelli every day. So it was just an amazing thing. But listen, he made a huge impact at the football club, and I was just. Listen, you don't. He made it look easy against Liverpool. You know what I mean? Liverpool had a good side as well, and the 3 finishes he had were
that was unreal.
Just electric, and it was a great first game of the season. It was fantastic. Flop, difficult one. I'll probably go a friend of mine, Michael Ricketts. That I was really excited when Michael came because I'd played at Bolton with Michael. And Michael had all the attributes to be a top player. And he played for England, played for Bolton, did it in the Premier League. And for whatever reason, he was probably suited just to stay at Bolton and stay at one club. And when he came to Middlesbrough, it didn't really work out. He didn't really play. He never really formed a partnership with Macaroni or Malcolm Christie or Nemeth or anybody where it made him look the kind of player what he had, because he led the line on his own. Steve McLaren didn't really have a one-up. He played a 2. And it didn't really suit the way he played, and disappointing for him. But I knew, and when all my mates were slagging him off and saying that he's not as good as what you said he was, because I was telling him how good he was going to be, and it made me look a bit silly. But listen, I knew deep down how good he could be on his day, but he never really materialised in a red shirt, unfortunately.
I'm going to go with Alves. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and a similar thing that. You've got Alves who scored all his goals in for Heerenveen in Holland, and it just didn't happen for him there, did it? And it's so disappointing because good players are good players. You don't become a bad player overnight. And I was same as you, just so disappointed the way that this happens sometimes.
How good was he against City and United? This is what that was my issue. I thought to myself, how have you done that? And then the following season, you play like my mum. I'm like,
it didn't work out, did it? It didn't. The understanding of and as you're watching it as a fan, you're thinking, how can someone one week be the best player on the pitch against the top side, and then you're playing against one of their so-called lesser teams, and you're not running about, you're not trying, you look like you don't care, and it's so disappointing.
I believe it was Tottenham I watched live. He was still at us for the Tottenham game, and I remember saying to my mate, because my mate came over to Middlesbrough with me, and I was saying, you watch this, and I don't even think he ran I don't even think he even jogged for the whole game.
I don't think he did. No.
He was just standing still, and I thought, this isn't a ability issue. This is not an ability issue. This is a personal thing. It's a mental or a personal thing, or something's going on, because for someone not to run, that there's more to it. Because against City, against United, he was unplayable. He was literally unplayable. I mean, and like you say, it's not the ability of the player. It's just it doesn't work out for some people at some clubs. Alexis Sanchez at United.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
At Arsenal, he'd have got in any team in the world, and then went to United, he couldn't do a thing. So.
But I think it's the annoying sort of a football fan that you're watching, and if the lad's running through a brick wall and they're trying their best and it's just not working out, you can go hold your hands up and go, do you know what? Can't do anymore. It's just not one of the things where you got players who look like they don't care and they're holding back and not running through the brick wall for the red shirt. It's just like, you can just leave for me and just move on, because there's someone else who can take your place or wanting more or give more than what you're giving.
Unless you're Dimitar Berbatov and you don't look like you're trying, but you're still world class.
Yeah, totally agree.
I mean, he was the only footballer in the world that looked like he didn't care, looked like he didn't try, but he was absolutely world class, and he'd score you and he'd give you as many assists as you want. He's the only footballer I'd have had at the club and been happy that he didn't look like he was trying, because he could do whatever he wanted. But apart from that, I agree with you 100%, 110%. AJ, if you're not lagging, you're...
Andy, I wanted to ask you... listen, I'm lagging, but it's all right, lads. I've been here for the full stream. Just really sorry about me. And I wanted to ask you, playing for England, representing the under-21 level, tell me what it was like getting the England call up. What was, what was that feeling? What was that feeling like getting the England call?
It doesn't. For me, it's the highlight and the pinnacle of any footballer's dream. And I remember the game where I got called up. We played. It was the game you ran about, the Sheffield Wednesday game. So I just scored the winning goal at the Riverside against Sheffield Wednesday. 1-0 win. And the manager and the chairman pulled me upstairs in the director's box and told me that Howard Wilkinson's pulled me into the under-21 squad for the playoff qualifier against Yugoslavia at Barcelona, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I wanted to know more details, and basically it was you're called up, you're leaving in the morning, you're getting picked up at 9 o'clock, you're going to go and train tomorrow, the game's on Wednesday, we'll see you on Friday, basically. So that was, so it was all very quick, and I didn't really have time to get nervous, because it was basically, I went home, told my mum and dad, packed my bag, woke up, got picked up, left, and everything happened so very quickly. And it was a great feeling to walk into the group, because I'd played for the 21s at the Riverside, and part of me felt as though I didn't deserve it, because I thought I was making the numbers up, because the games at the Riverside, I was playing to get the fans in. And I know I wasn't, but part of me felt like that. Where this felt as though it was a proper call up. It felt as though I'd really earned it and earned the opportunity, and that got proven with me starting the game and scoring one of the goals, and it made it even better. And to win the game and to qualify and to realise that I made an impact and I helped that team achieve success was just something else. Because I remember finishing the game in Barcelona, flying back to Gatwick, getting back to Middlesbrough, going back to training. I just felt as though my feet hadn't touched the floor in about a week, and people on about being tired mentally and physically, rubbish, because I felt as though I could beat anybody in a race, in a fight, scoring goals. I just felt I was indestructible, and I just wanted to go and play more games and play for my country, and you know what I mean. And that's when the manager brings you down and just tells you to relax and just looks after you a little bit, because listen, it's when the emotions then do settle down and you just, you know what I mean, you realise that what you've achieved, and but you want more of it, you know what I mean. I was lucky enough in the summer that I went to the Euros for the European Championship tournament, and experience wise in Slovakia, it was amazing. Played against some world class players at Pirlo. Nemeth played for Slovakia as well, who beat us in our last game. But it was just great to be given that opportunity, and something that no one can ever take away from him. You know, that obviously I watched Harry's Heroes, same as everyone else did, and to see me picture mug come up on that program was just like, whoa! Did someone else's highlight of their career was also one of mine, so it was a really, really nice feeling.
Pirlo, can I just say Pirlo? Jesus Christ Almighty!
Well, when he was a young kid, he was just as good as when he got older. He was like a fine wine when he got older, but his range of passing at 21 level, his ability, you couldn't get near him, and you know what I mean. We had some world class players, by the way, Stevie G, Frank Lampard, and everybody like that. But Pirlo was at another level. He was just he was world class.
Different gravy, isn't he? Even when you say certain footballers' names, and you have a little laugh to yourself in your head. You just think, he was so good at football.
Yeah, but it makes us sick though, because you know what I mean. He made football look just like it was a walk in the park and so easy, and it wasn't that. You know what I mean. He put that much effort in. He made it look that easy because he had that desire to be better than anybody else. And yes, he had natural ability, but you know what I mean. He also had the X factor and just wanted it more because he was just amazing. And I'm so proud that I got the opportunity to share a picture with him, because it was great. Yeah, it was great.
Not many can say that. Am I right in saying as well? Is he at Miami now? Is he at David Beckham's team, or is he going?
I don't know. He had been playing for New York, so I'm guessing he is still in the States and
rumor
playing
has
over there.
Today that Pirlo's going to. Sorry, Borough fans, but we're talking. It's just gone off the cuff. He's going to Miami, Beckham's team, and so is David Silva.
That wouldn't surprise me. I'd say he'd probably have an unlimited budget for next year. And why wouldn't you want the best players in the world?
I'll be having an Inter Miami shirt next season as well.
Everybody will.
Yeah, brilliant.
I'm going to ask you, Andy. You know, when you came out of football, I actually had someone tweet me the other day actually talking about Whitby Town. You know, everyone loved Whitby Town. I've got to ask you about your management. You know, when I've looked into the management, you know, you weren't in management very long.
No.
I'm wondering why was that? You know, why on earth were you?
It was
not in management that many years.
It was something that I wanted to give a go. I wanted to try to see if I enjoyed it, see if I was any good. Tried it. I was pretty good to start off with, and really enjoyed it. And then certain obstacles became apparent at certain clubs, and basically you work with your hands tied behind your back at times, and budgets become in place, and politics become, and then you start not enjoying it, and then when you start not enjoying it, I think then your passion and your results differ, and you know what I mean. And I moved club. I went higher to test myself. Didn't work out for me. I saved them from relegation, which was great. That was my job to go in there. But then the following season, the expectation with the same kind of players were to achieve more, and you know what I mean, limited ability in certain aspects, and unfortunately lost my job, and didn't really have the enthusiasm to go and get burnt again, and didn't want to put my reputation on the line to go and fail again. So I thought, listen, there's other avenues to go and enjoy my football. There's other avenues to get back in football and talk about football, which I enjoy doing, and look at different areas, and that's something that then I wanted to do, and left the managing to people who enjoy doing that kind of level and that kind of environment, and enjoy doing it. Because for me, I didn't want to then start hating football and starting to question myself and tarnish my own reputation, really, because I was happy with the way that I've left it now, and yeah, I'm not keen on getting back in.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I've got a big question for you.
Absolute legend to all the Cardiff fans.
You've just said you're not that keen to get back into it, right? So you get a phone call tomorrow morning off Neil Warnock, and he says, Andy, I want you to come and help us at the Borough in whatever way he feels you could help the club. What would you say, and what do you feel you could offer?
Oh, listen,
Middlesbrough Football Club?
I would go in tomorrow and help him out in certain aspects. But if Steve Gibson rang me up and offered me the manager's job, I wouldn't be keen to do it. But if he offered me a role to help find players, help talk to young players, help advise and help do that, listen, I'd love it, and it'd be my cup of tea, because working with players on a day-to-day basis is something that I enjoy doing. But being the main person to take the decisions and the flack and things, only a certain person can do that. And what could I offer teams? What could I offer Middlesbrough? I could offer my experience. I could offer the attributes what I had. The qualities that I could bring to the table would be the way that I can advise players. You know, that I think sometimes it's you're getting some really good coaches with really good qualifications, but they haven't had the life experience as a footballer and the ups and the downs which come in football, and until people are told about them and see them, sometimes it can be too late. You know that. You know what I mean? I've said a few times on the podcast that I do that coming out of the game is it's heartbreaking. It's one of the most difficult aspects of life, and it can hurt you and hit you in different ways, and it hit me in so many ways possible. And I'd love to be able to go into a football club, any football club, and advise players of the options of what are available when you do leave football. Because listen, it can be, and I know I've been to people's funerals, unfortunately, who've took their own life because they've not got football involved in their life anymore, and it's heartbreaking because people say football's life and death. It's not. It's just a game, but people don't understand that and can't get the head around certain things. And you know what I mean, I'd love to go in and advise people that there is life after football. You know what I mean, because football is such a short life.
That's something close to my that's something close to my heart as well, with the whole, the mental health thing. But on a positive note, just the Borough fans, can we all agree then, if Neil Warnock gave Andy Campbell a call tomorrow morning and said, will you come and work at the Borough in some role, you'd say yes?
Yeah, of course, 100%. And listen, I'd be lying if I said no, because it's anyone's dream to help out, and it's anyone's dream to help the club push in the direction that they want to do. And you know what I mean, if everybody could play the smallest part in to be successful and push that club back to the Premier League, it'd be an amazing achievement, or up towards the playoffs, or just away from where they are currently. Because it's such a big football club without having the affiliation that I've got as a fan and the next player. So you know what I mean, it's such a great opportunity for anybody.
With regards to that, and I know AJ's got a question, but this is something really close to me with regards to last season. I feel Jonathan Woodgate was, in a sense, thrown under the bus because he didn't have an assistant. To me, Robbie Keane wasn't ready to be an assistant. And like when Brian Robson was struggling, they brought in someone like Venables. You look at Solskjaer, he's got someone like Mike Phelan. Gerrard's got McAllister. And Jonathan Woodgate, who was an amateur and he was very inexperienced, he had his assistant was somebody less experienced than him, was more of an amateur than him, and he had no one to look to for advice, for that older, mature head.
Yeah.
Now, I feel he would have done a lot better job, and I said this to A.J.T halfway through the season. Do you know what? I'd love Warnock to come in and help Woodgate out. He needs an assistant. Do you feel at all that his time would have been better had he have maybe Pulis stayed at the club but reversed roles, or he would have had a more wiser head as an assistant? Because that plays a big part of the club. Because I feel Robbie Keane and Leo, I don't feel they could have helped him like he needed the help. And I do feel like he could have been a good manager with the right experience next to him. I don't feel the hate and the negativity he gets is fully deserved. I think there's a lot of other factors to why it didn't work out.
I think you're spot on. I'd have loved to seen a director of football being ahead of him. You know what I mean? I'd loved Harry Redknapp to just look over and give him advice, because he knew him from his Tottenham days. Even both of them, Robbie Keane and Woody, because it's not an easy job. It's certainly not an easy job for your first job. And I felt as though the things he was coming out with straight away in his interviews were great, passionate. You know what I mean? Spoke with his heart on his sleeve. But then all of a sudden, it didn't become true. And some of his interviews were a little bit misguided, a little bit off. He didn't seem to have the support and have people helping him during his interviews, and obviously some of his interviews have gone famous because of some of the comments he was saying, and it's such a shame, because listen, he's a Middlesbrough lad, he's passionate, he loves the club, and every time that club got beat on a Saturday or a Tuesday or a Sunday or whatever day it was, he'll have been so hurt, just as much as every fan was. But I think people sometimes look at the picture of, you know what I mean, he doesn't care. Look at the team he's picking. Well, he thought every time he picked the team, it was the best team, because as a manager, regardless of the result, you're the one who's going to take the blame, and when the team wins, you're also going to take the plaudits as well. And I'll go back to the first game of the season, Luton Town away. I've never seen, for years, a Middlesbrough Football Club attack and play expansive football like they did at Luton Town. I thought it was amazing, but we didn't do it enough for the rest of the season. Well, under his tenure. And for me, you know what I mean. Unfortunately, it didn't come to fruition for whatever reason, and that's ultimately why he ended up losing his job, because fans didn't buy into what he was saying anymore.
I'm glad. I mean, I know we wanted to ask you questions about you, and I apologise, but that's something that I really wanted. It's nice to have a professional's perspective on it, because I do feel he was thrown under the bus, and the criticism isn't 100% fair, and I believe we would have been in a lot better position had he have had the help and support that he needed. No disrespect to Robbie Keane, but I don't even think he's got his managerial. I don't even think he's got any. I don't think he's passed any of his managerial qualifications yet. You know, I just
think for me, I think for a young manager to go and see someone in their office about how did you think training went, what happened on Saturday, they've watched the game from upstairs. People can see a different picture than what you can see. Instead of picking the phone up and asking for advice and saying, what should I do? Well, what's going wrong? Well, you're only telling someone of your own opinion anyway. They're not seeing it from their own eyes. So I think sometimes a director of football, yes, managers don't like to have somebody above them because they think that they're looking after the job, or they're trying to stitch them up. It's not the case sometimes. Sometimes it's a business decision, and the club's run in the right way. And unfortunately, things didn't work out the way they did for Woody, and I was devastated for him, because I went to school with him, I grew up with him, I've known him really well, but I'm not being biased towards that. I also believe that somebody would have helped him, and he still would have been in the job now, because they could have worked together and worked it all through. Because all we had to do this season was stay up. That's all we had to do. And if he'd have picked some positive results up, and COVID-19 hadn't hit us, we probably would have stayed up, because we were playing with confidence. We just beaten Charlton. Some other whole city were on the demise anyway, and we would have been all right. But because we'd had COVID-19, players came back, didn't look fit. We played the first game of the season coming back. Obviously, played Huddersfield, got battered in a friendly. Played the first game, was absolutely disgusting. So the chairman had no other choice than to take him off his job, and then obviously Neil came in, and we beat Stoke quite comfortably with a decent performance. You know, it doesn't then look good on a previous manager, and then people say he's not very good, but it's not the case. Listen, he's a brand new manager, the same as Frank Lampard was, the same as Stevie G were, and but people need time, and people need to be given fair time and given an opportunity.
And have the right people around them. And I'm so glad you have the same feeling as I do, because, I mean, there'll be a lot of fans watching this that dislike Woody for it. And I had to ask your opinion on that. That was one question I really wanted to ask, because I'm glad you feel the same way. And I do believe he would have been still in the job, and I still believe he would have done a good job had he have had that person next to him and had the right support. But I'm also the happiest man alive that Neil Warnock's our manager. So
yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and listen, it's win-win. In an ideal world, we'd love to have Jonathan Woodgate as manager, as a Middlesbrough fan, ex-player. But listen, it wasn't meant to be, and we move on. And listen, whoever's managing our football club, we're going to support them forever.
Exactly.
So
No matter what, it could be anyone, apart from Alan Shearer.
Just before we finish up, lads, 5 minutes to go or so. Some people inside the comments have been asking you some questions tonight, Andy. Jack Hunter has asked, did you ever feel any added pressure being a local player for Borough?
No, I'll be honest. No, I thought the fans were amazing. You know, they always give us probably a little bit more space and a little bit more time than probably other players, and they realised that we tried our best and we did everything we wanted and we could for that football club. So the fans were absolutely amazing, and it just made it enjoyable and to play for the club probably without the pressure of friends, family, fans. It just made it even better. So no, it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Ollie's asking, what was it like playing at Ellen Road?
Difficult, very difficult. The fans are passionate, and when their supporters get behind their team, you know what I mean, and the songs are chanting, marching on together, and you know, even the music before the game. It's a tough place to go, and it's difficult. But on the other side of the coin, it can also get you going a little bit more and looking forward to the game. But no, I think. And I've seen a lot of games now with the way that they play, and they get a lot ahead of steam because the attack, and for me, Bielsa's one of the best. Well, he's the best manager in the championship for me. He's done a great job, but yeah, it's always a difficult place to go. There's certain places that I've never really enjoyed going to play. Ellen Road was one, the New Den was another, and Upton Park was another. Just didn't seem to get any spare change or any decent results or performances out of either game.
Yeah, of course, yeah, Mill.
Yeah. But Ollie, he said
I hate going to Millwall as a fan, so I can't imagine what it was like going as a player.
Listen, I've never got so much stick than I have. I went there as a Cardiff player, and obviously Cardiff Millwall rivalry was ridiculous. Stood warming up, and I think I was threatened with death about 12 times. I was getting some stick, which it was disgusting. Things thrown at me. It was just outrageous. So the quicker I went back in the dugout and sat there, I didn't go back out warm up. And when the manager told me to warm up, I was no chance.
Someone said, will Cardiff win tonight? Of course, 2-0 down, aren't they? But, will Cardiff pull through tonight?
Listen, I'm a realist and I'm honest. And I said at the start of the playoffs last week that Brentford will play Fulham in the final, and my stance doesn't change. And I think Fulham will probably finish the job off today quite comfortably, if I'm honest. I've not seen the teams, but if Mitrovic is playing, I seen the Cardiff game against Fulham a couple of weeks ago on the other Friday, and Mitrovic ripped Cardiff every time he got the ball. And I do fear that Cardiff have got to attack and they're going to leave gaps, and Fulham are that good and they keep the ball and the attacking droves, and they're probably for me they're probably the best team pound for pound on paper in the league. But I believe it'll be Fulham who'll go through. So if Cardiff get a positive result, then good luck to them. But I don't think they've got enough to go through.
Who's winning the final? Who's winning the final? Sorry.
After watching the game, what I watched last night, I can't see past Brentford because I thought Brentford were absolutely fantastic, and the attack, Ollie Watkins, Ben Rama, for me, I think they're absolutely two fantastic footballers, and I can't see past Brentford beating Fulham in the final.
I have one more question, Andy, before we wrap up tonight, and the question is, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh God, that's a good question. How do I want to be remembered? I want to be remembered by the abilities I had on the football pitch. That I used to obviously be rapid with my pace. Used to score goals. Obviously, my celebration now was go down in folklore at Cardiff. Obviously, scoring against Man United. But I also have a good rapport with supporters and good relationship with fans. And and I base myself on that because I don't think that players nowadays have a good relationship with supporters and have the link and have the closeness that I've always had, and that's something which I always try to carry on. I always try to respond for as many things as I can on social media and stuff, and that'll continue because I think the relationship that I've always had with fans was very special and special for me and my family. So I want to try and continue that.
Brilliant. That's a good answer, that.
Of course. Andy, thank you so much for being on the channel tonight.
My pleasure, gents. Loved it. Really enjoyed it.
I asked questions.
Thanks so much for joining us, Andy.
Answer, so thank you very much.
No pleasure. And good luck with everything, fellas. As I say, you know what I mean. I know how difficult it is to do stuff and get people on, and you know what I mean. But you've got the followers, you've got the people who want to listen. So keep going.
What?
Okay. He's lagging again. Oh, there you go. He's back.
No,
it's okay. My dad's asking, did you ever beat me dad in a race? He's asking that. Did you ever beat me dad in a race? He's asking.
If he was outside the Newcastle house a few Saturday nights, I might have had a race with him then. But
listen, Andy, thank you so much, mate. What
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure.
Thank you so much as well, mate.
Cheers, gents.
Questions. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andy.
Anytime.
Cheers, mate. Thank
Anytime.
you.
Take care.
Thing. Up the borough.
Too right. Good luck, fellas.
Take it easy, mate.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye-bye. See you, bye.
Keep tuning in, people.